Good morning. I love all the feedback today. Okay. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham. Whoever you are, whoever you love, wherever you are today, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Today, our guest speaker is Anne Markham Bailey, and she'll be talking about healing through nature therapy. After the service, Anne will be at the back of the sanctuary. There is a table where she is selling some of her books, and you can purchase those through Venmo. And then starting at around 11:20, Anne will lead our forest bathing session. So anyone who wants to attend is invited just to meet in the narthex around that time. Let's see. Okay. To all who are here this morning, welcome home. Sorry. We appreciate your attention to all of our announcements this morning. If you require accommodations during our service, our ushers are in the back and they are available to assist. Our annual church retreat is coming up. It's August 26th through 28th at the Mountain in Highlands, North Carolina. We would love to see everyone there. We will have programming for all ages, and it's just a really great opportunity to nurture relationships in our spiritual community. Scholarships are available and space is limited, so please check your email for the link to sign up. This September, Reverend Julie is launching a program to develop and empower our lay leaders within the congregation. So if you'd like to take a deep dive into what that looks like and how you could be a lay leader in our congregation, this is a great opportunity for you. You're welcome to take the sessions without a commitment of becoming a lay leader also. We are calling these lay leaders the beacons of our church. Reading and homework are required, so just consider that if you're interested. Applications are due by August 15th, and you can contact the church office if you want to learn more about that. Our water communion is also coming up in September, so as you are traveling and taking summer vacations, be sure to collect a little bit of water to bring with you. Our water communion service is September 11th. And then as a final note, our podium flowers today are in honor of Jean Weaver's birthday. We will also be having some cake in the narthex after the church, and there is time to do both. So if you want to take part in the forest bathing session, you'll still have, roughly 20 minutes or so to grab some cake and celebrate, and then join Anne on the walk. The prelude prepares us for worship. Please rise in body or spirit for the lighting of our chalice. In the beginning, there was light, infinite and expansive, flowing out from an unseen center. Throughout creation, there is light from a steady sun, the glowing moon, the flashing meteor, the twinkling stars, and the auroras dancing in the northern sky. Within each part of creation, there is light, slowed down and held close by every cell and molecule, by each atom and every element. Within you, there is light, the same light as the source, the same radiance that is in all creatures. May this small flame be a constant reminder to you of your true nature and your kinship with all beings. In the spirit of inclusivity and welcome, please take just a few moments to greet the people around you, especially if you haven't met before. Please be seated for the opening words. Let us be a faith that gathers, reaching for one another through the walls of hate that others build, through the cages of ignorance and arrogance, and through the fear that burns city streets. Let us be a faith that sees a vision of a better world, more compassionate, more just, and with much more love. There is a faith that binds up the broken, heals battle wounds with the balms of peace, sings longer and louder than the trumpets of war. Let us be that faith too. Let us be the ones who do not tread lightly in this world, but light it up with our love, who hold up the mirror of worth and dignity, who are the sanctuary that others seek. John.
Good morning. I'm John Powell, a member of the church. Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support the efforts of our church to change the world for the better. If this is your first time with us, you can pass the plate. We're just glad you're here. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. Today's Share the Plate will be for Alabama Interfaith Refugee Partnership, who provide resources and care for refugees in our community. We appreciate your donations, either by placing them in the plate, by mailing your donation to the church, or by using PayPal, VENMO, or Zelle. Our VENMO account is at UUCBHAM. Our Zelle account is office@uucbham.org. Please designate whether your offering is for UUCBHAM or ALIRP, which is Alabama Interfaith Refugee Partnership. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate recipient. May we give in love and hope.
Now is that time in our community when we share what we carry with us on this day, joy or sorrow. If you are joining us online, please feel free to share your joys and sorrows in the online chat, and you can acknowledge the other people in the chat by typing their name and just putting a parenthesis around it. For those of you who are in person today, you are now invited to come up and drop a stone in the water in honor or memory of what is on your heart today. Please come forward. I dropped a final stone for any unspoken joys or sorrows among us today. May we keep one another in our hearts and minds in the spirit of community and love. Please take a moment to hear a spoken meditation. If there is a heaven, it is right here, right now. In this particular arrangement of nature, this happening of earth, moon, and star, this constellation of instants, this laden moment, this flash of recognition, this particular particle of time. If there is a God, it is all around us, everywhere, in every blinking eye, in every pulsing possibility, in every ugliness and every beauty, in every wholeness and every part. If there is anything established in this universe, it is life, it is love, it is death, and above all, it is wanting and needing to be a part of this crystal of creation. Amen and blessed be.
Good morning. Do I have any kids who'd like to join me up front for a quick story? Hello. All right. So today we are talking all about nature, and there are so many beautiful and wonderful things in nature, but sometimes some parts of nature can be not so beautiful and wonderful. For example, mosquitoes. Do any of you guys love mosquitoes so much? Right, me neither. So I thought I'd read you a story about mosquitoes today. How the Mosquitoes Left Canberra, a tale from Fiji. Once, long ago, a small island in the Pacific called Canberra was infested with mosquitoes. The island people were constantly at war with the pesky insects and grew weary of being bitten, especially at night. All day long, the women of the tribe pounded tree bark into fine mesh screens to keep the mosquitoes out. Now it happened that a prince from the island of Oneata sailed throughout the South Pacific in search of treasures for his people. He landed on Canberra, and the chief welcomed him as an honored guest. After a great feast, the prince was shown to a sleeping room. It was surrounded with beautifully painted mosquito screens. "Tell me, O chief of Canberra," said the prince, "why do you hang such wonderful cloth all about the room?" "For the mosquitoes," replied the chief. "Mosquitoes? What are mosquitoes?" asked the prince. "Our little friends of the night," the chief said. "They are small flying insects that sing us to sleep each night." He was too embarrassed to tell the truth. "How nice," said the prince. "We have nothing like mosquitoes on Oneata." "Oh, that's too bad," said the chief. "We have more than we need." The prince yawned, and just as he began to fall asleep, the night air filled with the hum and buzz of thousands of hungry mosquitoes flying outside the curtain. "Such a soothing sound," he muttered, "a rare treasure indeed." Oh, yeah. The next morning, the prince asked the chief if he could take some mosquitoes back to Oneata with him. "You would have to take all of them," replied the chief, "since they're a close-knit family and they couldn't stand to be separated." "But what about your people?" asked the prince. "Wouldn't they be unhappy if I took all of your lovely mosquitoes?" "They would," replied the chief, "but if you were to give us something in return, I think they'd be satisfied." "I have a magic conch shell in my canoe," said the eager prince. "You blow it like a trumpet, and the fish swim to shore and let themselves be caught. Your people will never be hungry." "It's a bargain," said the chief of Canberra happily. "Our mosquitoes for your magic shell." The people of Canberra set a trap for the mosquitoes, using a huge basket so tightly woven that even the smallest of the insects couldn't get out. They placed a freshly killed pig in the basket, and the chief waited behind a nearby tree with the lid. The sun began to set, and the mosquitoes came out in droves in search of victims. Some of the pests found the pig, and it wasn't long before every mosquito on the island was in the basket enjoying the feast. The chief jumped out from behind the tree, popped the lid on the basket, and tied it securely with long vines. With the basket in his canoe, the prince sailed back to Oneata. He thought of how happy his people would be with the restful sounds of the mosquitoes. The chief of Canberra was also happy. He blew on the conch shell, and the islanders began gathering in the fish for a celebration feast. You guys think that was a good trade? I think you did a pretty good job. All right, you ready to go downstairs? Yeah. All right, let's do it.
Now, I hope you all will join me in a warm, welcoming round of applause for our guest speaker, Ann Markham Bailey. Oh, what do I do with this? Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Please bear with me. I am having a post-COVID, weeks past COVID, but my system is kind of backed up a little bit, so it's a little, I'll be clearing my throat, and it's not very pleasant, so I apologize. I am so happy to be here. It's really my first time to be in the church, in this particular church. I was part of the UU when we were in Birmingham, in the old facility, and that was where I met Lamar Marshall, who I had invited to come to the church to talk on Earth Day. And he, if you don't know, is the founder of an organization, a nonprofit called Wild Alabama. And it exists today, and I started doing forest bathing and learning about forest bathing as an awareness practice with Wild Alabama, and we do monthly, they're free sessions. The next one will be on July 30th on a Saturday. So that one will be in a wonderful, cool canyon in the Bankhead National Forest, surrounded by hemlocks and rock shelters with a creek running through. I encourage you, if you'd like, to just sign up on the wildowl.org site and join us. But so that's a very deep tie to the Unitarian Church for me. Also, it was at the Unitarian Church that I started my journey as a meditator with the Shambhala organization that started sitting before there was a center at the Unitarian Church. And that became a very profound part of my life journey. So I'm really happy and moved to be here today to talk to you about forest bathing, which is also called nature therapy or forest therapy. And it originated at the beginning of time, I assume, but as a formal practice that is now really spreading around the world in a very powerful way, started in the 80s in Japan. So the sort of poetic term forest bathing actually is a direct translation from the Japanese Shinrin Yoku. So you'll see that term also. And that translates to forest bathing. So you'll hear a lot of jokes. Oh, are you, in the bathtub, in the woods, and stuff like that. But it's a metaphor. Forest bathing was started by a man named Yoshifumi Miyazaki, and he wanted to understand why he always felt so good after spending time in nature. So he decided that he wanted to try and measure and study what is actually happening to us as human beings when we spend time in nature. And he actually had to wait a decade for the tools of science to develop enough so that we could start measuring certain things. But now there's so much scientific evidence that time spent in nature is beneficial for us. And it may sound obvious, but this is, 20 years ago, this was not a known thing, that actually our heart rate slows down. Our immune cells, the cells that fight disease, are boosted. The plants and the trees give off certain kinds of chemicals that assist in our well-being. And our mental health improves. We feel more connected. We feel calmer. We feel even that life has more value. And this is not something that I'm making up. This is based on lots and lots of scientific studies from schools of public health, from medical schools, from researchers around the world. People are even finding that groups of children who have trouble functioning in systems because they haven't lived in reliable, dependable systems or families or communities, when they spend time in nature, there's a logic to being. There's a logic to the more than human world, which is a term that is now being used instead of nature, which sort of nature and humans sort of assume that there's a separation. So this term, the more than human world, you may hear it or read it, that there's a logic that is discernible for us as beings, and that we can absorb. Our brains are made, our being is made to understand the rhythms of being. So even when we're in situations or we haven't been exposed to functioning, healthy systems, when we are, we respond. I think for me, one of the most powerful things about forest bathing, which is now often a guided immersion. So that means that someone such as me is trained and practices working with groups of people in nature in ways that help the human being move out of this incessant thinking mind. And that thinking we can call mental ruts. It's not the kind of thinking that helps us problem solve, because that kind of thinking is very creative and it's purpose-oriented. But the kind of thinking that's like a closed-loop system, where we just have a thought or a feeling just over and over and over and over, and it really creates a rut in us. And most of humanity is plagued by this kind of thinking that has no real purpose. It may even be a generational kind of pattern that comes down to us that we're not aware of in a way that we can stop. So the guide, the forest bathing, or the nature therapy, the forest therapy guide, helps the participant through a series of invitations move out of this kind of incessant thinking and into awareness, into the body, into the senses. And it turns out that as beings, we are just made for awareness. We're made to be part of. We are not separate. We are not separate from anything. There's only a finite number of building blocks in this universe, and we're all made of the same components. So, in a very logical way, our feeling of separateness is just an idea. It's part of those mental ruts. And it turns out that when we are guided in moving out of this kind of incessant thinking and into the power of our awareness, the power of our connectedness, we benefit. Our well-being is boosted in so many different ways, mentally, physically, as communities. One of the things I find to be so powerful is when I think about our climate crisis and why humans, why we won't do anything, why we don't seem to be taking this seriously. And I'm speaking for myself here. I'm not casting judgment. I'm still in my car driving and doing all the things. And the fact is, when we move into the practice of awareness, we really can feel how we're not separate. We really can feel how we are the rivers. You know, our bodies are 90% water. We are the rain. We are the rivers. This is not something that's out there. This is what we are. We are the earth when we eat food. That's all we are. And the way that we're plagued by feeling that we're separate, it's just a human glitch. So in forest bathing, the guide invites the participant to cross a threshold from common thinking, from mental ruts, and into the experience of awareness, into deepening into the senses. So we passed out some mint that is from my garden. If you just take the mint and maybe pull your mask down for a moment, and you can rub the mint. And we're just going to do a little awareness practice, which is just move into the feeling of the inhalation as you breathe the smell of the mint in. And maybe your mind says, oh, mint, I know what mint smells like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's fine. Now move into the smell of the mint and the feeling of the breath that draws the mint, the way that the mint fills the air. And see if you can simply allow the mint to move into your space, into your mind, into your body. And when you're ready, you can set the mint down, or you can continue to smell it. There's tremendous power in opening into the awareness of the senses. This is how we can know our world. It's an example of how we're built for connectedness. So after the service at 11:20, we're going to meet in the courtyard here. This is a perfect forest bathing day. It is not even 80 degrees at the moment. And so we're going to gather, and then I will guide you in a forest bathing immersion. And I'm using these three terms: forest bathing, nature therapy, and forest therapy, because you'll see all those terms out in the world. Any questions you have, we can answer then, or at the end. It'll be about a 40-minute session. Like I said, Wild Alabama is doing monthly forest bathing immersions. A wonderful organization, if you don't know about them, based in Lawrence County. Just really can't say enough. They work in the Bankhead National Forest and in Talladega National Forest now. So July 30th, we'll be doing that. I am, as a writer, as a forest bathing guide, as an awareness educator, I'm doing frequent forest bathing sessions across our region. And I'm really interested in helping to spread awareness practice through nature therapy. So helping groups of people. So I work with teams, and I work with schools, and I also plan sessions in public parks that are on the calendar. There's nothing on my calendar right at the moment. But if you or your organization are interested in a custom session, please let me know. This really is a passion that I have. And there's now like armies of forest bathing guides across the world. People are training and showing up to help human beings move through this glitch of the mental rut and into the power of our connectedness, with the view that we are here together and we can show up for one another, both as human beings and as rock beings and stone beings and tree beings, that we can all be together on this abundantly giving planet that is such a gift when we learn how to really receive. So I think of it as moving away from this kind of trajectory of thought that has become the modern world. You know, we're climbing ladders and we're going down the road to success, and we're all these terms for being on a trajectory, when really I think that we're actually in rotation. We're on a planet spinning in outer space. Hello. So there's a turning, there's a circle, and we're on this journey together. We're circling together, and we can learn how to be here together in a way that supports life and supports the planetary health as our own. So thank you so much.
Please rise and body your spirit for the extinguishing of our chalice. And now we take our leave before we gather here again. May each of us bring happiness into another person's life. May we each be surprised by all the gifts that surround us. May each of us be enlivened by constant curiosity, and may we remain together in spirit until the hour we meet again.